Hello again. This is part 2 of Organelle Notes 2024. We are going to be looking at the diagram here of a typical animal cell and pointing out a variety of cellular structures, also called organelles, that you're going to find in a typical animal cell. So let's start by just giving us a label for our drawing and just say typical, because this could be any of a number of animal cells would kind of have this look and contain these structures. The first thing, we're going to start at the far left. The first thing I want to point out is the cytoplasm. All cells have cytoplasm. Cyto simply means cell. So this is the plasm or solvent that is the watery filling of the cell. So it's sometimes called cytosol. The function is to hold the organelles in the cell, but it's actually a lot more than that. The cytoplasm is the medium for many chemical reactions that occur in the cell, and it facilitates movement of the cell. So I would say that you could simply call this the work space of the cell. The second part that we want to talk about is the DNA. Remember, all cells have DNA. In particular, an animal cell, since it's a eukaryote, is going to have the DNA contained within a cell membrane like structure, which we're going to call the nuclear membrane. So it's going to be another membrane that is within the cell that is containing the DNA. So I'm going to get my picture off here so we can look deeper here. So there's going to be, in the case of human nucleus, you're going to have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which are long sections of DNA that are in pieces. And they're going to be contained within this nuclear membrane. So the DNA, as you know, is the heredity material, but sometimes we refer to the sections of DNA as containing many genes, which are recipes for proteins. So genes make the proteins, or have the recipes for making the proteins, and these are arranged in long pieces called chromosomes. Your chromosomes have many hundreds and thousands of genes contained within them. So chromosomes are pieces of DNA. Okay, so we have the DNA pieces all contained together in the nuclear membrane. So I'm going to change my color here so we can see a little bit better. I'm going to change it to blue. So this is the nuclear membrane. It's made of the same substance that the cell membrane that is surrounding the cell is made out of, but this is particularly containing the nucleus. Now you see this spot, and you can see this sometimes when you're looking at cells in the microscope. This spot, it's a dense, dark spot, is referred to as the nucleolus. Nucleolus. So look at the spelling there. It's a little bit different than the nucleus. So it is a dense spot. The DNA is in the nucleus, right? So this is the nucleus that contains DNA. And this spot within the nucleus is referred to as the nucleolus. So it's going to be small, dark, oval. And it's going to be dark because it's where ribosomes are being produced. So if you can imagine all these dark spots kind of coming through the nuclear membrane and scattering throughout the cell. So just darken in. They're yellow here, but I want you to, and we're going to skip ahead so I can write a little bit more what these are. These are the ribosomes. So what ribosomes are, and they're so very important, they don't have membrane around them, so they're going to, sometimes I refer to them as little peppercorns. These ribosomes are tiny, but they're so important because their function is to produce proteins based on the DNA's instruction. So the nucleus is reliant on the ribosomes in order to get its recipes made. I like to think of the ribosomes as being the chefs at the kitchen table, reading the recipe book and putting together whatever dish they need to make. In this case, the dishes are all going to be different proteins. Okay, so I went out of order there. Where is number 5? Okay, so number 5, some of these ribosomes are embedded within this membrane, which we're going to, I'm pointing it out here. Do you see this light blue line? This represents kind of a folded up membrane. I like to think of it as being like lasagna, the way it looks from the side. But this, all of this folded up membrane is called endoplasmic reticulum. That's a big word. Endo meaning within the plasm. So endo means within. So within the cytoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum. Reticulum is a folded membrane. And this endoplasmic reticulum can, if it has these little ribosomes stuck kind of on it, we're going to refer to it as being rough. Think of it as being feeling rough because these ribosomes are stuck in it. So rough ER. ER is short for endoplasmic reticulum. Why would the ribosomes hang out on that reticulum? It's because they will take those proteins and get them moving. Think of that endoplasmic reticulum as a highway of the cell. And it is shipping out the proteins and moving them quicker through the cytoplasm. So they are shipped out. I like to think of endoplasmic reticulum as the highway of the cell, transporting quickly materials. So if it doesn't have the ribosomes embedded in it, we are going to refer to it as being smooth, ER, no ribosomes, and it still has a job to do. And part of what it's going to be moving is moving out toxins. It's going to detoxify the cell. It's going to, try to get them out, and it's going to also have a job of making lipids, producing lipids. So the endoplasmic reticulum is a rather big organelle that's going to be spread out within the cytoplasm. And if you look, here's a bird's eye view. We've got rough ER containing the ribosomes, smooth ER not. Okay, number 7, structure number 7 is, it looks like a purple pickle here. And as you can see, it has a double membrane to it. So look for that double membrane. Look for kind of the kidney bean shape to it. And I shouldn't have said pickle because I don't want you to think that this is green. When you look in the microscope, if it's green, you're not going to think it's this structure. You're going to think that it would be a chloroplast. So we need to distinguish this. This one is very important. It's where we get our energy from. It's the mitochondrion. Singular would be mitochondrion. Plural would be mitochondria. So we have mitochondria in varying degrees in different cells. You're going to have lots and lots of these in your muscle cells because The function of this is to produce energy. ATP is cellular energy. This is the energy that your body is going to convert. An organism's body converts glucose that it may either produce or ingest into this form of energy. So this is what your cells need to make things happen. So ATP, we'll talk about that later. ATP is made from reactions that occur in the inner membranes of the mitochondria. So basically, glucose that is consumed or made by a cell, in the case of animals, we're going to have to consume our glucose, is going to be turned into ATP by the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cells. Okay, so we've got another membrane-bound organelle here with the word trash inside of it. So what I'd like you to think about this is a place to store waste, okay? That's what we mean by trash. So this is going to be a lysosome. Now, whenever we see lyse, we think split. So what's going to be inside, and some actually just means body. So this is just a little body full of hydrolytic enzymes. These are going to be enzymes that are going to split up materials that your body doesn't need anymore, or this animal doesn't need anymore. This is a typical animal cell. So it's going to contain hydrolytic enzymes, and they're going to break down waste or digest food. Okay, let's go to structure number 9. Structure number 9, and I've already talked about it. It's hard not to talk about the cell without talking about the cell membrane. So I'm talking about this membrane that's going to go around the perimeter of the cell. All cells have a cell membrane, every single type. Very, very important. It's not just like a piece of cellophane or saran wrap. It's got a lot more going on, and it's choosy. It chooses what it lets in and what it lets out. It also gives the cell some kind of a structure. It is made out of primarily phospholipids. We've talked about phospholipids before. Phospholipids form this membrane by creating a double layer. Remember, these are the 2 fatty acid tails, and this is the phosphate head connected to the glycerol. I don't know if you recall that from last unit. But in order to make a cell membrane, these phospholipids flip themselves around to form what's called a bilayer, or a double layer of phospholipids. And it's very, very important, and we'll talk more about that later. There will also be other items embedded in this layer, like proteins and a fat called cholesterol. So it's so important that we're going to take a whole day talking about the cell membrane. The function, as I mentioned, are to allow materials to enter and exit the cell as part of maintaining homeostasis.